So welcome, our remarkable colleague, Nicole. It's so good to see you again, and we just so appreciate your consistent solidarity and visionary leadership. And as always at Setsi, we begin all things by acknowledging our Creator and giving thanks. We acknowledge all our ancestors. We acknowledge all the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Nicole, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Well, thank you for having me in this space. I'm quite honored. So my name is Nicole. I am a psychotherapist and social worker, and I am the CEO of an organization called Ifrata, and it started 8 years ago. I'm currently located and reside in the Mississaugas of Scugog Island, where I called my home. And in addition to all the other roles that I play, I'm a mother, a sister, a daughter, auntie, and a friend and a cousin. So thank you for having me.
Love it, love it, love it. Congrats, mommy, auntie, sister. So good to see
All
you
of
again,
that.
my friend, as always, beloved sister. So, my first question is, what's inspiring you right now? What has you curious, or what's keeping you up at night in terms of your work?
Oh, so much, so much. I just got off of a meeting and it's like grilling in my mind. So I'll start with just my own experiences. As a child, I grew up in this community of Mississaugas, the Scugog Islands, so like Ajax, Oshawa. And really, I wasn't seen. I was taught that I didn't matter and that I wasn't worthy. And I have distinct memories of being a child where I just felt so much pain because of that experience of anti-Black racism. And so when I was growing up, my parents are part of this church, and that's where I met one of my aunties. You know, Caribbean people always call their adults aunties. So she was amazing. She saw me and she saw the work that I could do and really inspired me to move forward. And that's kind of what has been inspiring for me. And I talked a little bit about anti-Black racism, and I've seen over the years as a psychotherapist, you know, how anti-Black racism really changes the trajectory of our young people, almost to the point that they don't recognize themselves, right? They internalize messages that they're not good enough from their teacher, from the community, and they have to figure out a way to like justify that experience. And that's what kind of has been motivating me. I share a story. So a couple weeks ago, so that was my experience when I was a kid, but like a couple weeks ago, my nephew, he's 7. He goes to a very good school, affluent neighborhood, really highly successful parents. And he writes this note and he says, I hope that I feel more important in my school. I hope that God forgives me. And so here we are, like so many 40 years later, and he still feels that he's not important, feels that he needs forgiveness. And these are the experience of Black children. And that's my inspiration, is to encourage Black children to be seen, to remind them of their worth and the gifts that they were called to be, to create opportunities for them to be successful, to be mentored and loved. And that's what really inspires me.
That's absolutely beautiful and shows how important your work is as a psychotherapist, as a social worker, as an auntie, as a sister, but as a phenomenal leader in our community. So once again, I applaud you and I appreciate all that you do for so many. So my next question, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work? And what are some of the approaches you're taking to overcome some of these challenges?
Another great question. I understand our challenges through the lens of anti-Black racism, anti-Blackness. As we know, it's a systemic practice, right, that is rooted in slavery and generational trauma, and it's rooted in all of the outcomes that are happening for young people. So without addressing anti-Black racism, I feel that we're not able to like address all the intersections that come with it, such as gender, sexual identity, poverty, and abilities too, right? So I acknowledge that it's part of our struggle is that desire for change, desire to shift the outcomes for young people. And part of the practice that I have, that I work in, is that tenets of Afrocentric care. So constantly talking about critical race theory, but also talking about joy that comes with our culture and our identity and intertwining both of them together. Another challenge that we notice and we experience is the systemic change. You know, sometimes there's little bits of pieces that happen, but it's not sustainable. And so part of our work in an organization is just really promoting an advocacy around continuing the work so that we're really creating systemic change for families, for children, for youth in the community.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for all that context and sharing narratives. Really important. So my next question, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work?
Yes, I mentioned earlier that our organization they're supporting them through child welfare, through experiencing social, economic, relationship, even interpersonal challenges. And we also have youth workers who provide like youth programming and oversee, youth leadership grants to provide, space for young people to shine. As an organization, we're always committed to like creating spaces for youth to thrive. So we started doing some cultural and racial pride activities and events. So we have like a youth dance program. We offer drumming programs. In the fall, we're offering a youth-led conference, which will showcase and highlight young people in their elements, spoken word, music, different activities that they are so amazing at. And we're also doing a rites of passage program and working really well with community partners to deliver that program. And we're also promoting equity amongst the sector. As I shared before, anti-Black racism is always the lens that we understand the challenges that our families experience. And we want to ensure that other leaders and direct service professionals who are working with our community has that lens. And so we're promoting an equity conference in October, highlighting some of the amazing speakers and knowledge keepers in our community to really come out and talk about equity and what that looks like in organizations.
That's incredible. Rites of passage and life cycle training is so important in terms of the
Yeah,
physical and capacity strengthening of our young people. So this is phenomenal work. Congratulations and thank you for all
thank
that
you.
you're doing. Yeah, so my next question, how do you feel about the future of mental well-being in our community as a psychotherapist, youth development, positive youth development, or just community development?
Mm. I see I see so much capacity for us if we look at things in a holistic manner, not just focusing on, what's happening in the emotions or the heart, but what's happening for that individual and their family, what's happening in their community, as well as like the impact of systemic racism. And, I started off this conversation talking about, my roles and the things that I've done in the past, but really, when it comes to mental health and comes to well-being, we often don't consider how our roles and how our experiences intertwine with each other. And sometimes that experiences have been rooted in trauma or been rooted in difficult experiences. In our community, I grew up, like things were around resilience and things that you could do to like achieve greatness. But sometimes there's controls out of our ability to be able to do that. And so shifting the conversation around, what did you do wrong to, what happened to you? What was your story? What got you here? If we can shift that, I think it will make a lot of changes in how we support people with mental health issues and also reduce the shame, right? We're in a community where there's a lot of shame around mental illness, mental health, mental well-being, a lot of misunderstanding around what's the best intervention. And if we shift the conversation to create space for love, self-compassion, and just empathy towards others, it will definitely make some really remarkable changes in our community.
I couldn't agree more. The stigma related to mental well-being and mental health in our community is astronomical and absolutely daunting. The amounts of pressure and strain and stress on individuals is coming on in so many different ways, and we see it in terms of folks self-medicating and self-sabotaging and self-destructive behaviors. So once again, I applaud your phenomenal work, and I know it's daunting, but yeah, I just appreciate you for all that you do. So my second last question, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
I think this is heavy comment around success, but I have to say in Durham region, our ability to connect as organizations and collaborate on initiatives, that has been successful. being able to work on a systemic level to look at how we can ensure and develop Black liberation and equity, that's success. When our government's priorities, which are in housing and immigration policies and Indigenous rights, are also centered on the rights of Black individuals and the experience of anti-Black racism that happens within all of those systems, that is success. So if we remain on that political agenda, that is success for me. And just creating that generational change, right? That's what we're looking for. It's not just about my generation or my child's generation, but it's like generational change that our grandchildren can see liberation for our people.
That's beautiful. I couldn't agree more. We have to figure out how to be generational cures to mitigate these generational curses that have, haunted so many groups and so many cultures and orientations and regions across the planets. And we have to figure out a way, despite, all the pervasive challenges of anti-Black racism, to be the change that we want to see. So once again, I appreciate your consistent leadership. So my last question for you, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
I do. My call of action, based on everything I've shared today, is that we lead with kindness and empathy, that we embody self-compassion for ourselves, because really we are all warriors seeking to survive, right? Seeking to live good lives. I encourage people to plant seeds of love that reminds our young people that they're seen, that they're loved. And my call to action is around advocating for big changes, not just, in little spurts, but like big changes that continues on, as well as within the environment that we live in, right? We can be change makers in all that we do. And I quote Audre Lorde, who I love, who says, "We are powerful because we are survived." And that's kind of what my call of action is as well. And then finally, it's important to find places of rest. As a Black individual, I work hard, I push throughout much of my life, and I'm sure you do the same thing too, where we just keep going and going. But I think it's really important for us to have moments where we just enjoy life, we connect with our spirit and our identity, and we just nurture the relationships that exist within us. Another Audre Lorde quote she says is, "Caring for ourselves is not self-indulgence, is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." So rest is our resistance, and being able to create spaces for rest in the midst of like our challenges that we experience in our community, in the midst of our strive for equity, in the midst of all the obstacles that we experience, creating opportunities for rest. And my final quote, to quote Trisha Hershey, is, "We're not just born to center our entire existence on work and labor. You're born to heal, to grow, to be of service to yourself and your community, to practice, to experiment, to create, to have space to dream, and to connect."
That's absolutely beautiful, family. Madasi, pa. Thank you so much for all that
Thank
you
you.
do, all the jewels, all the words of wisdom, all the actionable insights, your tenacity, resilience, and clear visionary leadership. So appreciate you. And it's so good to see you. It's been far too long. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. I should.
And as always at Setsi, we close this conversation, this interview, the way we began, by giving thanks and acknowledging our creator, our sustainer, by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders, all our community stalwarts, whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Nicole. I appreciate you, fam.
Thank you. Thanks for the space. I appreciate it. And all the work that you're doing. The other interviews were like amazing. So I appreciate that.
Give thanks.